Back on MorningLine, it's our final segment. Thanks for joining us. If you're on Facebook at newschannel5.com or on the Plus, Lynn Wood's with us, Caregiver Support Coordinator with Mental Health America of the Mid South region. Good to have her on this morning. Wanted to pick up where we left off. This is basically our last segment, and I was looking at most of the comments on Facebook, and a lot of people, Denise says, as we were just talking about, exactly, it can be difficult what we're talking about. It's brutal dealing with these situations. You always have to just compartmentalize it, right? When you're doing these things as the caregiver, one, look out for yourself, and two, everything you're doing, the focus of that should be on what's best for your loved one, okay? And what's best for your loved one, oftentimes after a period of time, is making sure you take care of yourself. Because guess what? If you're not there, they're really toast.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The other thing to remember is what's right for you and your family may not be right for me and my family. So we should not get into a situation to where we are judging or criticizing how someone else is caring for their loved ones. Hopefully you're having conversations now with parents to say, what do you want? Because at a certain point, they may not be able to tell you. And I think, I've told my son, I didn't have you so that you could care for me. I want you to have a life and have children and travel the world and live. So, as a parent, I'm putting plans into place now. And that's what we have to do for our children. It's the best gift we can give our kids at this age. I'm almost 56. Is to say, this is the map. You don't have to try to guess what mom wants. If your parents are 80 and they can still share this with you, then, I'm speaking now to the folks who have some time, who can have these conversations. So you do know what your parents expect from you. And I would imagine that, I don't know, we promise our parents, I'll never put you in a nursing home. Well, putting someone in an assisted living or sending them to a sunny day program or to an adult day stay, that's not a nursing home. You're not lying. You're not breaking something that you've told your parents. The options that our parents had when they were our age, we have so many more options now to where we can honor our parents. But basically, you're exactly on point. You have to be you're the caregiver. You have to make sure they're safe, because if they get behind the wheel of a car, if they get lost in the middle of the night, can you live with? I had a gentleman one time, he said, I can't be the son that calls the police on his mom. I said, well, then you're going to be the son who is burying your mother, because she's going to get in the car, she's going to hurt someone, or she's going to go into a ravine and she's not going to survive. And he did make plans. He did put his mother into an assisted living. She doesn't remember that he was the one who did it. She's mad at whoever that was, but he said, I got my mama back. I can have important and good relationships with her, because I'm not worried now what she's doing or where she's going.
Because she's somewhere safe. Yeah, I mean,
she's somewhere safe.
Yeah. Vicky, I think, has a good approach to this. She says she's been a caregiver to her mother for almost 21 years in her home. Wow, that's impressive. Wow. She'll always respect her mother. I'll always give her a choice. I think it's mean to tell them what they're going to do. If someone has a memory issue, still respect them. Don't make them feel like they're a burden. Which, I agree with that. I agree. I mean, you don't want to make them feel like it's a burden. You try to respect them, and you find a way to get them to do things without telling them to do it. But sometimes, unfortunately, depending, and everyone's different, you have to force their hand, because 99% of them, if you ask them, well, Mom, are you ready to go with us to this new situation where we're going to get you help, and it means leaving their home, they're going to say no. And if they can't live alone and you're not in a position to be there with them, you have to move them, okay, by whatever means, even if it upsets them, because to do otherwise, in my opinion, is irresponsible. And if that upsets them a bit, too bad.
Well, and I think there's a different way to do this. Number one, I want to applaud, I think you said her name was Denise.
Vicky,
because the first...
It was Vicky.
Vicky.
Yeah.
I want to applaud Vicky. The first thing that she said was, I give her a choice.
Yep.
And when you give someone a choice, it does give them the sense that they are in charge. Sure. So the choice is, we can bring in care into your home, or you can go live in this community. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to be by myself. Well, that's not one of your choices, and just stay focused on those choices.
There you go. Sure.
The other thing is there is with respite, a lot of our assisted livings, whether they're Medicaid or full private pay, they have what's called a respite. So you can rent your mother or your loved one an apartment for a period of time, kind of a try it before you buy it.
Sure.
So that way it gets them used to the idea. And then a lot of times when I worked in that field, probably 80% of the time when the loved ones came to pick up mom didn't want to go.
Yeah, you know what?
Mom,
they loved it. Here's the point. You're exactly
they
right.
loved it.
My parents are fairly social people, and I have another friend of the family whose friend is living alone. She's the most social person. You get on the phone with her, you can't get off. But she's alone day in, day out, and she just will not leave this facility, her home, because, and her, you know, and she's still able to care for herself, but she just won't leave. And I've said this time and again, like my parents, they didn't want to. They got into this place. All of a sudden, they're in a community living setting, surrounded, first of all, by caring people, as well as folks their same age, social stuff every day, friends, gathering, all this. They love it. And I know that my other friend, if she would just ever give it a shot, she would like it, but she's not going to. And that's the way it's going to probably end up for her. And that's fine, but it's so sad because I can tell you, if she just gave it a shot, she would love it.
Well, I would encourage families out there. You're right. If she gave it a shot, she probably would, you know, think lots of times is, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah, right.
So, try it this way. Unfortunately, I have had conversations with families where I said, you're not going to be able to do anything until there's an emergency in the home. So once that loved one, unfortunately, has a fall or has to go into the hospital, the idea then is they never go back to their home. They can go to the hospital, then they go to a rehabilitation to get better, then step them on down into an assisted living who can help them get back on their footing and try to sell it as it's just one more step. Well, I get to go home soon. Yes, maybe soon. And then it really is back on the doctor, right? You know, once you can do these things, then we might look at you going home. And it's getting them in that scenario. I would encourage families now, if assisted living is something that you're going to be able to afford and consider, start shopping now and go ahead and I worked in assisted livings. I would feed anyone. I mean, if you want to bring your mother over for lunch, call the one that you want to choose or the one you're looking for and see if your mom can't come and do some activities in the community with the other residents, so that if they do have to make an urgent move, because now something's happened to you and mom has to go somewhere because now you're in the hospital, it's not just surprise. This is it. They have.
You definitely should go and get on a waiting list too, depending on the situation for some of these.
Depending on the situation.
Get on the waiting list right now. But as we wrap it up, we just have 1 minute left. I just want to emphasize the point you just made, that too often times the push comes to shove when there's a medical emergency or crisis with a fall. And sometimes that's where, okay, that's the opening, you move them. But then that's just a whole crisis anyway. If there's any way to do it before something bad happens, even if that means forcing their hand a bit, that beats the heck out of waiting till they fall and break their hip or wander off and there's a silver alert. I mean, it's just try to be proactive on it if you can. I know so many people, they don't put them on the waiting list. They just let it go until something bad happens. I know it's easy to keep putting it off, or you think they're going to be okay. Get a handle on it.
It's the best Band-Aid you can rip off, because once you make these plans and you've written them down and your neighbors know, your loved ones know, the grandchildren know, if there is an emergency, the purple book has the rules. This has everything there. And then you don't have to dread it. It's like having the death talk. Have the death talk, know what you want done, share what music you want, all this, and then you never have to dread having that conversation because you've had it. It's done. You don't have to worry about when is it going to happen. Have it, write it down, and then put it away and let that be some refreshing to your brain. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Lynn, great advice. We could talk about this all day, because I don't mind talking about it because I've been through this and I sympathize with anyone dealing with it, but it all comes from the heart and you do the right thing. Thank you for joining us today, Lynn Wood. And as we wrap up at the end of the show, I'm going to make sure to put the number up again for you, but it's great talking to you. Great job. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. We'll be right back with that contact information right after this.